sounds. Testing audio. Oh, that sounds loud. Hi, Jackie. And I am here. Hi, Sherry. I sound really, I sound crazy loud. All right, you guys might have to put your audio, your volume down just a smidge because I've done some tweaking to the microphone because it was so low that now I don't know how to put it back down again. So I do apologize if it's tremendously loud. Hi, Sandra. How are you, darling? Hi, Barbie. How are you, darling? ¿Cómo estás, mi amiga? So, we're gonna do an album. We're gonna start an album. I kind of already started just to get some of the construction, the heavy duty construction out of the way. But this is pretty much the basis, the basics of the album. I still have a little bit of cutting to do. 3 minutes. I'm just gonna give people time to get on in here. I started a few minutes early just to be safe. But pretty much we're gonna be doing an album. Is by 8 inches with a 2-inch spine. What I used was the backing of this sketch pad that I received from Brandy, and I turned my sketchbook. I turned it into a collage book right here. So I've just been kind of gluing all my little bits and pieces. I had like bags of just bits and pieces of paper. I've been kind of gluing stuff in here. This is gonna turn itself into an art journal or the other. Did I sewn the book and I bound it all these different little books, and I made out of it, and that's what I'm gonna be paper that was in the sketch pad. But it brought a really nice thick chipboard, so I thought it would be good for this. Um, I did on my live stream. It's probably on its way already to whoever's going to be receiving that, which she should be. Um, show you guys how I'm gonna do this now. On book that I made, the album that I made, instead of gluing the album sections to the spine, I used Velcro. So I'm going to show you guys more or less how to do that and how to use the Velcro to Velcro your books in, as opposed to have, which is an easier alternative than having to either add magnets, because sometimes they're not so easy to find. But you can find this at the Dollar Tree, and you can buy it in black or in white. More than enough than what you need. So we're going to be using that on this album. So pretty much I have my sections already here. I do have to cut this down to 8 inches each, so I'm going to start doing that. Each section is going to be 5 inches by 8 inches, so it's not going to be a really wide album. All the inserts are going to be opening up vertically and horizontally, and then it's going to have an envelope that's going to, that you'll be able to insert tags and so on and so forth. Part 2. I'm going to be decorating this album with papers that come out of this paper pad, which is the Coral Couture stack. I'm not sure if I'm going to turn this into like a mermaid themed. That's kind of where my mind is right now. I want to make it somehow, mermaidish, and these colors fit perfectly for that, even though there's a lot of floral in it, a lot of pretty colors, bright colors. And I haven't really used this paper pad much, so it's mostly complete, but it's still, where are they? I can find them. It still has all of its tags. It has 2 sheets of all of these cut aparts that I can use to embellish it. So I thought that that would be cool to use. So we're going to be using this to cover it up. And I think today I'll get as far as building it and covering it. And if I have more time, depending on how fast I can do this, then I'll probably start working on some of the sections that are going to go in the inside. We're just going to get this part of it going. And I already pre-measured everything, and I did my little lines so I know where I have to cut at. Also going to be using duct tape instead of the Tyvek, which is like the priority mail material that is like that destructible kind of plastic. I'm going to be using, I don't have that, so that'll be an alternate way for you guys to do that as well. Beautiful, and I've kind of not necessarily been hoarding like what I can do with it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out a lot of, I'm gonna try to use up as many of those bright and bold pages as I possibly can, and leave some of the calmer ones for like making cards and do it that way. So I'm gonna start. This is just like cardstock that I have, and it's a longer sheet. It's like 13 inches by like 10. So this will kind of give me a lot of room to add all my pieces in and then kind of secure it all together. And, you know, moving on. I did leave some basic instruction there, but, you know, if you're coming back to this video later, let's just see how this goes, and the measurements might change because I'm not that great at measuring personally. So I made all the pieces a little larger than they probably need to be, so things might change as we move forward. So let me go ahead and get my little X-Acto knife out of here, my little craft knife. And this, we found this for $2 at Dollar General. I didn't even know that they had this. Really good find, and it works really, really well. So if you're looking to find one, Dollar General carries these now. You might already know. I didn't know. I just saw it when I went the other day. So I was like, yay. Happy find. So I'm going to cut this one, and then I'll just cut the next one according to how I cut this one. So I'm just going to quickly line. Do it from this edge since I know for a fact that this edge is straight cut edge. So I'm just going to level my ruler, make sure that my ruler is nice and leveled. Do it this way. I get it as close to that line as I possibly can, and just make sure that my ruler is nice and flush so I can cut this out. So how is everybody doing? Hi, Michelle. Alright. So I'm just gonna cut this. Try to do it freehand. You know, feel free to use an edge or a ruler or something that is hard. I'm just gonna try to hands and just follow my line. Down that line. Just gonna fold this back so that it just makes my cut a little bit easier to kind of do. And then I use this piece on the next one as a reference so that they're exactly the same. My measurements, and just make sure that I cut this properly, because this is when the instructions in the bottom are subject to change. I did this pretty much good. It's, yep, it's perfect. Thank God for that. Thank God for that. So now I'm going to do the same to this one and just cut along on here. So I'm just going to make sure that they're flush together, and then I'm just going to pretty much feed my blade. Just hate when that happens. Don't move on me. I'll do the same thing and just kind of fold this back so I can follow that cut line. This is really sharp too, so I was definitely in need of a nice sharp X-Acto knife, I call it, because my other ones were not cutting properly anymore when I'm trying to do my cut. And those were bought on eBay, but I've had them for quite some time. Come on. It does screw on and screw off so that you can replace the blade. It came with replacement blades. I don't believe, but I could be mistaken. If they did come, then I probably put them away somewhere. Oh, you're paper shaping? Nice. I heard you mention something about you haven't paper shaped in a while. So that's cool because you got some nice toys to paper shape with now. Um, I finally, well, I think for now my collection, my Alice in Wonderland collection is pretty much done. I got three more pieces to add to my Alice in Wonderland paper shapers, which if I get a chance, I'll probably show you guys later on. I'm still waiting for some other things, so about just sharing it all at once. I'm also waiting on some mermaids that should be getting here soon. We'll see how that kind of all goes. So, see, I have made my line way up. It to be. Let me just make sure that I get the straightest one that I have. Let's hope for the best here. It'll probably be easier for you guys if you use something straight edge along, so as you cut, edges stay straight. I do things backwards a lot of the times, so I make it more harder for myself. Hopefully, we are good to go. All right, so these are our three basic pieces. I mean, to start an album, this is pretty much, you can make these as wide or as narrow as you want, but pretty much the construction of an album of the cover and the back cover. Did I just snap my? I snapped my thingamabob. Hi, Claudia. How are you doing, darling? I'm gonna put my little X-Acto knife back in its new little home because it doesn't belong there, but it fits perfectly. And I'm gonna save all these pieces. I'm gonna toss them because I don't need them anymore. I'm gonna toss that. So we have the beginning construction of our album. And I figured it would be a good thing to do today because it is altering and recycling, which is pretty much what altering, to me, what altering is all about is recycling things that would normally go in the trash and just finding new life for them. So that's the reason why I chose to do an album for the Let's Create Live. Plus everybody has different ways of doing it. And I've seen many people do it, in their own way, and all of them are, awesome. But I know that for me, sometimes when I follow other people's instructions, I end up messing up or I end up altering their instructions somehow. So I figured I'd do this the way that I would do it and maybe add a new way of doing things to the bunch. Is anybody else buffering? Oh no, it broke. Oh. Uh-oh. So let's see now. So now that we have this, pretty much we're gonna go into our covers. Now, like I said, this is a 10-inch, if I'm not mistaken. You can use what you have as long as your measurements are good to go. Yeah, this is approximately 10 by 13, if I'm not mistaken. And give or take a quarter. Um, this I'm not gonna cut this down because anything that's excess I'll trim off later on. Your album panels larger than you need them, but you can never add back. So it's easier and it's better for you so that you don't frustrate yourself later on, because I've gone through that so many times, that you just make them larger than they need to be and then just cut down whatever you need. So what I'm gonna do actually, add all my pieces in here, and I'm just gonna add this to kind of because you want to make sure that you stick each spot. So you see how I left that area kind of open, because as your paper folds and closes, you want to make sure that you give it room, you know, to be at rest, regardless if it's open or if it's closed. If you glue them and they're together like this, then what's going to happen is as you glue your paper really hard, and that's when the tears happen in between your sections. So make sure that you allow yourself just a little bit of wiggle room, um, placing that in there. Let me get this cutting board, my cutting glass out of there so that I have more room and no. Uh, as you can see, this is pretty much way larger than I actually need. It'll allow me some room to kind of fold the paper over, so on and so forth. And actually what you can also do, if you don't want to do it this way, if you don't feel like your paper is long enough, then you can do it in sections. So I'm kind of debating right now if I want to do it this way, if I want to do it in sections. I think I'll be okay, but I'm noticing that I don't have much of an edge to kind of wrap around. So actually, I think, you know what, I am going to cut it down to sections. Myself 2 pieces at 6 1/4 by 9, because my album is 5 by 8, so I have more than enough room. So I'm going to cut myself 2 pieces of this at 6 1/4 by 9, and I'm also going to cut myself 1 piece at 4 inches by 9, so that I make sure that I have more than enough room. I can always trim away, but I could never add. So that's like the key thing here. Let me get my paper trimmer. You might have to restart it, or maybe if you're on your phone or your tablet, then maybe your phone or your tablet is dirty, you know, has backed up cache. So you might want to clean it out real quick, or restart the application. So let's go into this. And again, I said I'm gonna cut it at 6 9. So let me go to 6 1/4. I've ordered some blades, but they're not here yet, so we'll see what happens. Let me get my next one. 6 1/4. By 9. I'll do away with any excess as I need. So 6 1/4 by 9. And this should pretty much give me enough room that I can kind of lay it out, and you see how it kind of frames it out. You see how it kind of frames it out. You want to be able to wrap the edges so that you're covering up all of the edges around your cardstock. It's not that thick. Mine is really thick. It's about probably, let me just see, 1/8 of an inch. So it's really thick, maybe even a little bit more. Yeah, it's about 1/8 of an inch. So you just want to make sure that you have enough, you know, enough paper to cover it all up. Let me just grab myself another sheet here, and I'm going to cut this one at 4 inches by 9. And then what I'll do is I'll stick my spine first, and then I'll wrap the pages, the size of the page. It's easier for me to show you than to tell you. My goal is to actually finish this within 2 live streams if I can. I'll probably work on some pages off and work on some pages on. And we're going to be doing envelopes and tags, and we're going to be doing all kinds of different things, even embellishing it. I plan on doing all of that while I'm here with you guys. So I have my 3 pieces to start off with. I will be coming back to this to do the inside, but I'll start off with that for now. And I'm going to get myself some double-sided tape. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get myself some glue, because glue is easier, more readily available than double-sided tape. If you have double-sided tape, then feel free to use it. I personally rather not go to my double-sided tape because it's like a little gem for me for other things, but I will be using it here and there. Try to make sure that you're, let me use this to kind of create some contrast here. Try to make sure that you are centering your piece. When I'll leave this to the front so that you guys can see the measurements, at least for the next few minutes. Make sure you leave yourself enough room in the top and the bottom, and definitely on the sides. I'm going to move on to my next piece. We're not going to score and fold this just yet. Doing that in the next steps. Do the same thing to this side. Let me see if I can remove this without destroying the cardboard. So some of it off without destroying too much of the cardstock. Make sure you are not so stingy, but don't overdo it with the glue. You don't need that much glue. Let it spread out really, really well. And again, try to center it. Making sure that you have enough space in the top and the bottom to wrap over. Where your album is gonna go. So I have enough that I can kind of wrap it this way. I should have enough that I can also wrap it this way when I do need to do that. Right now, I'm not worried about that step. On to the next piece. Oh yeah, that's definitely your phone then. That's definitely your phone. And we're gonna do this again. In the corners and the edges, you have a good amount. You can do this with any kind of cardstock that you have. As far as, you know, the cardstock for the cardstock that you have, be it recycled pasta boxes, recycled sketchbooks, recycled books, anything that you have, you can kind of do this with. Let me just make sure that I can. So now I'm going to go back to this. Sure that what I need is here. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to leave my spine to cover it for last, okay? And I'm going to show you guys why. the first thing I'm gonna do is cut off these corners here, and I'm gonna cut these off at an angle so that I can fold it over. Scissor, or you can do this with an X-Acto knife. It's completely up to you how you do this. To be so you have like so. I want to do it so close to the corner. I did it kind of close to the corner, but you might not want to do it so close to the corner. Just want to make sure that when you wrap it, you can more or less wrap the whole thing. And again, you might want to leave yourself some room, little like a fraction, you know, like a little centimeter off above where the corners are, so that you can actually wrap your corners well. And I'm going to proceed to glue this. Hi, Joyce. How are you, sweetheart? You can pre-score this if you want. I just rather, you know, you score the lines. I mean, unless you're a pro at this. If you're a beginner like me, sometimes scoring the lines can mess you up because you're trying to fit your cardstock and everything else on these score lines, and sometimes it doesn't score exactly where you need it to score, and then you end up creating a problem for yourself. So I just like to do it this way and just wrap the paper on and just make sure that paper is on there nice and secure. So pushing it along the edges and just making sure it's right on there. Holding it in place if I need to, and adding glue if I need to. More glue, I'll just go back into it. Again, you can do this with double-sided tape. Just double-sided tape for a beginner is not so forgiving. So everything I do when it comes to paper crafting is like a beginner thing for me, because either I haven't done many or I'm still very insecure about what I'm doing. Granted, glue is not as forgiving either, but I'm just a little bit, I work a little bit better with the glue than I do with the double-sided tape. It's pretty much up to your preference. And this is just pretty much to give it, to cover it up. Kind of like, I'm not sure where I want this to kind of go, but this is like how the first panel, at least the front of it, is gonna look. And then we'll be covering this up with paper to make it prettier. Oh, I almost forgot to cut my corners, you see? I'm gonna try to a little bit above. This time I left a little bit of paper there, only because my corners a little bit, so I will have to fix that at some point with either an something or the other. This was a little open, so I'm just gonna push this in and just make sure that this is there. I'm just flattening the edges out. You don't necessarily need to do this. This is just making sure that I don't have any air bubbles and that everything is nice and tight. All right, so we got that one. Let's do this one. Again, I'm a little hairline of space there with my corner, because you see, you learn as you go. And that's what this is about. It's just very basic beginner from a beginner. Hi, Janet. How are you, darling? So pushing up against the edges, pushing forward, just to make sure that you are not leaving, you know, space there, that everything is nice and tightly wrapped around. Do the same to the bottom. I covered those corners a lot better. If you want to give yourself, and that's completely up to you. This was cut at 9 inches, right? So maybe if you do like a 9.5, then you'll be able to bring this down just a little bit more, which will definitely cover more of this corner out for you. It all depends on what you plan on covering the inside with. I'm going to be doing the front and the back for now in black, just to get the you know, the form of the album kind of going. Still feel sick. I know. Stingy with the tape, Brandy. It is stingy with the tape because I don't have much. It is not easy for me to get. Maybe if I had like a tape runner or like one of those colossal tape rolls. But let's be honest, I buy my tape from, right? Like, I'll show you. They're really small. I already finished the one you gave me, Brandy. I already finished it. It's small. Like, it doesn't have much, and believe it or not, it goes by so quickly, and it's not even that thick. And I buy these at 10 rolls through it quick when I have it, and roll. I'm being stingy because I know I'm gonna need it to embellish and to decorate and to do all the other things. So I'm like, So it's just, you know, it's just me. Yes. But it's good if you do press it down though, just to be on the safe side and just to make sure that you know, everything is nice and secure. um I've done these with double-sided tape before. Sometimes I still have to add the glue because the paper will pop right off. A certain amount of time itself will just start to kind of lift because it doesn't have glue. The glue is a lot easier for me to find because whenever I go to Dollar Tree, I'll buy like 2 or 3 bottles at a time. So it's just a lot easier for me. And I know for a fact it will leave it nice and secure. Oh, okay. The heads up. We'll definitely do. I'm also waiting for. I bought a used Big Kick because the Big Shot I couldn't afford it. I mean, that thing's like $100, so I really couldn't afford, you know, to spend that in one shot on a cutting machine, especially because I do have my Cuttlebug. But my Cuttlebug is just not, the pressure I think is off. It's just not cutting the way it used to cut. That's even with new plates because I did buy new plates for it. It's just not doing what I was hoping that it was, you know, that it would be doing. It's a little some time use out of it. My husband is about to inherit it because he is starting, well, has kind of started, if you will, his own crafting channel. Our live stream the other day, and he has so much fun creating his card that he's actually I think I'm just gonna let him use that one and I'll just use the big kick. At least that way if he does you know, break it but even if he does, I won't feel too bad about it. It is. It sells out quick. It's like the best glue in the world. It is like the best glue in the world, girl. But if you want me to find you some, like when I go, they usually have it full. People don't know my secret. Not, none of the locals. So far it's been safe. Um, so what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna fold this over and glue this in. But I'm not gonna do nothing to the sides, and I'm not gonna cut this one apart. Okay, I'm gonna fold this over and glue this in, and then I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. I need to get my scoring knife. Not my scoring knife. My bone folder. Gotta throw the glass on the floor. Alright. I'm gonna get this. And I'm gonna score it. Not necessarily score it, but I'm definitely gonna push on this edge right here. And I'm gonna do the same. Here. So I've kind of made sure that it's nicely wrapped right there. No problem. Just let me know. Let me know because I have I don't go to Dollar Tree often. I go once a month, but so you know, I usually pick up a couple bottles just to have because I do really enjoy that glue. It works better for me than most other glues, as most of you guys hear me raving. They must be like, I know, Carmen, I know you love the glue. But I do, it does the job for me, so I can't complain. Where others fall short, this one does not, at least for me. So I'm just gonna make sure that that's that. I'm gonna wrap this over. This I am gonna score a little bit, sure that you know, it will wrap nicely around that edge. Because this is the spine and this is the health of this, you know, this album. If your spine falls apart, so your spine is, to me, important part of your album. Your spine has to be, as they say. So pretty much you guys get the gist of the shaping on this. Now is where I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna get some duct tape and I'm gonna add some duct tape in here. Now I know that my glue is not gonna glue on to the duct tape because it's like, you know, the material is like that plasticky. Let me just make sure that I get where I need it to be. Pull down. Add enough where it'll fall right between stock and the paper, and I'm gonna use my scoring tool and I'm just gonna make sure that it falls in there nicely. I'm not worried about how much I'm putting on. You can cover the whole thing, it's completely up to you. Want to make sure that that is there nicely so that it protects my paper, protects the corners, you know, that fold out spot. Sure that's in there well. Hi, Liz. What's a shim? All right. So I have a shim that I use on my Cuttlebug. Pretty much a shim can be made of cardstock. It can be made of various pieces of heavy duty paper or cardboard. It's something to use to compensate for the loss of pressure when it comes to passing your plates through the machine. So let me just bring this out real quick. So as you know, with time, your rollers, the what creates the pressure in here sometimes from adding different size dies, and also adding 2 or 3 sheets of paper at a time when pass pass your paper through the paper shaper quick. With time and with repeated use, the pressures can get a little bit off. Everything here is screwed on with bolts, screws, whatever. So just like anything else that has bolts and screws, with time, it'll just weather a little bit and it won't have the same capacity to hold itself together as it used to. Creating a shim, I'm trying to see if I find mine, because I do have one, which I'm not necessarily seeing. I do have one that I have a heavy duty kind of plastic that I use to run in between my plates. So what I'll do is I'll put it in between the sandwich. So if you have your lettuce and your tomato and your ham, right, then this will just be maybe some pickles. So you put your paper shaper, you put your paper, you add the shim, and then you put your last plate, and then you run it through. And again, you're kind of pressure you need. You can do this by adding multiple pieces of cardstock. You can create the balance of the pressure by adding, a heavy duty plastic like I did. I found a really nice heavy duty plastic from a Wacom tablet. So it had like this plastic layering on top, and the tablet no longer worked. So I took that plastic off and I put it away. One day I'm trying to, run my paper shapers through, and it wasn't cutting. I used that, and voila. You can use is foam. Guys, foam is the same thing. You can use foam as a shim. It's just something to compensate for the loss of pressure. It depends whichever way. I mean, for some people it works better when the paper shaper is facing up. For others it works better when the paper shaper is facing down. It really just depends. I know that I've ran it pretty much both ways. Um, and sometimes if I don't get it to, shape out properly, then I'll flip the sandwich and put it back in, and usually that'll do it. Because if you think about it, pressure, this is flat on one side, and then it has the little edge that, that shapes your paper on the top. When you put it this way, your roller is going to pass through right over that flat surface. When you put your paper on top, then the roller is going to pass specifically on these edges that create the shape. So like I said, sometimes it will work better if you put them face up, but again, that all depends on your machine and how much wear and tear you've created on it. Abuse the living heck out of it from overuse, then it just works a little bit better sometimes when I put them face down. But well, when I put them face up, not face down. My paper shaper, and then I put my paper with the cutting part up. So here I go again, and you can use any color you want. This is just what I have plenty of, so this is why I'm using this hot pink by the time that I'm done. This is just basically, I want to make sure that it's pushed up nicely against that card that I have in the center. I want to make sure that this is pressed up nicely against that. Again, this is going to help it prevent itself from tearing, okay, from repeated open and closing. For this part, I will be using, at least here, I will be using double-sided tape, although I will continue to use glue for the remainder of the building process here. And I'm also going to add a thin strip right along the outside. So you're going to see the inside and you're going to have it along the outside. That's just for added protection. Again, it's not necessary for most, but it for me a lot useful. It's to be very useful, and it doesn't have to be as thick as what you put on the inside, just a thin, especially if you're going to cover it. Because I'm going to cover it, I don't really care. Let me take this little off right here, this little bumpy ridge. I'm just going to make sure that it's right over that. This is just added protection. Now, if you have the Tyvek, I actually just used what I have because I have received the package. So to save them, what I do, and then again, I'm just gonna make sure that I can fold this, and I know that this is not gonna break off. This is not gonna wear and tear, no matter how many times you open and close it. I know that it is secure. It's just an alternative for that. And you prefer to use that, then by all means, go right ahead. Yes, the Cutterbug is good. I love my Cutterbug. What? Cutterbug. I even just sounds so sweet and tender. But I mean, reality, some of the paper shapers that I'm buying, some of the ones that I've received are just a little bit longer, or are a little bit wider than what my Cutterbug would allow to be fed through, damaging, causing any damage to my paper shaper. So I just want to have an alternate there so that when I am running, or I am processing those bigger paper shapers, that it works well. And I don't have to go crazy running it 100 times. Now, like I said, I got the Big Kick. It's an older, way older. It's like one of the original, it's the one that came before the Sizzix Big Shot Pro. The Big Shot or the Big Shot Pro. The one that came before that. It's the one that came right after the Big Red, which is the one with the big that you put down. Which that one, I don't know. That thing seems like you could build a car with it. So I'm gonna leave that alone for now. But for the most part, I'm gonna be covering my paper. I'm gonna make sure that it goes in just a little bit so that I can cover some of this. If you want, you could have put it just down just a little bit, but I do want to make sure that my edges themselves are somewhat protected, which is why I've made sure that I put it all the way to the top and all the way to the bottom, along those creases. So now we have this, and this is going to go in here like so. So we're going to have that, and all of this stuff is going to be covered. You can put it in there like so. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. You can do it cover on the outside like so, or you can do it with the cover on the inside. I'm going to do it with the cover on the inside. It's completely up to yours. As it does the job, it doesn't matter. Yes, I know. I saw on her Instagram she put down some information as far as phone calls and communications. They're going to be, the FEMA and the helicopters and stuff are going to be activating phone service at 8 o'clock tonight p.m. So if you're trying to reach some loved ones, 5 p.m. or around that time, will probably be your best bet in communicating with those that do have phone service or have access to a phone. Over there, they'll be able to communicate with their loved ones over here. Awesome, awesome news. This is some double-sided tape. This is just another one that I found whilst desperately searching for some. So I'm just going to put one right along the edge of this on one side, on the inside, just to make sure that I cover this. This is going to be covered with black paper, which is why I'm just putting this in because I might as well be removing this tape just yet. This is just so that I have it there, and then the rest is gonna be. Now I'm gonna use this. Just make sure that my tape is nice and secure in there. I'm gonna be adding glue to the edges just to adhere the papers together. Yes, with a shim. I bought the the magnetic pad as well. I think the thing has maybe 2.5 to 3 weeks tops. It looks like a taco ball. With that product at all, it holds the dye well, but it no longer holds the dye well because it pops up. It looks like a bolt. So I was not too happy there. I could have just as fine. I would have been just as fine with just the embossing pad. I tape like I've been doing thus far. Spacer, because remember, you need a spacer. Hold it up nicely against the edge of your spine. Just make sure that you can see it so that you don't put your book cover than it needs to be. So you have that space. Remember, we need to keep that space in between each cover. I'm gonna just put this down. I'm gonna add glue wherever I feel like I'm missing any glue at. Just make sure that this is nice and flush. And close it all the way, and I'm pretty much good to go. And I'll do the same to the other side. This, add glue in any part that is remaining. And this is why I made these parts a little bit longer, so that I can have the ability to add the double-sided tape as well as the glue. Yes, I do shape a lot of paper, which is why I've completely the pressure in my machine. But you know, what I'm gonna do, right? The love of crafting, and I get ahead of myself. What this is. Get it. But I do shape a lot of paper. I will not deny it. And I'm hoping to do even more paper shaping once my other machine comes in. All right, so we have the basics. And it opens and closes. I mean, you could even pull it all the way back and not worry about, you know, your spine. At least at this stage, right? We're still gonna need to cover the inside. This to the side, but everything is pretty much flush. I just want to make sure that I'm happy. Don't have any air bubbles that I can very easily fill in before I move on to the next stage. You can run your finger along it. If you have a bone folder, then just make sure that everything is nice and flush. And we're going to be covering most of that. But this is, I just wanted to show you guys that there's an alternative. You need to use Tyvek if you don't have Tyvek. If you can get yourself black, you know, duct tape, they sell these things in every single color, then by all means use duct tape that matches the color of, you know, whatever paper cardstock you're using to cover up your heavy duty chipboard. So if you're using white, maybe you might want to buy yourself a roll of white duct tape and a roll of black duct tape just to have it there. So when you're either working with white, you know, covering it in white, or if you're covering it in black, then you know you have your secure and everything matches. So just a little tidbit of hopefully useful information. Now this might be something that other people do. I have no idea. I haven't seen it. Use the Tyvek, which is again the priority mail I've seen people just do it straight. I've usually done it straight because I didn't know of an alternative, but the other day my brain was kind of rocking and I was like, you know what, I think I could use duct tape. So that's why I figured I'd share that with you guys. Which is why I wrote in the title that I'm going to do it my way, because there's no other way for me to do it but the way I do it. So now that we have this, I'll be covering everything here. Now, my goal is to add one sheet to this and just score it here and score it here. That is my goal. We should have first before I glue this on. Right now, I think I'm gonna just try to go with the one sheet. So let me grab myself another one. I shall be able to do this. A little bit of wiggle room on each side. So let me see if I can show that to you guys. I'm gonna leave myself a little bit of wiggle room on each edge. Flip it over and I'm gonna score on these parts here. I'm gonna score it right on these parts here so that when I stick it in, it's nice and flush, and then I'm gonna remove. It does fray. So but since we're gonna be using it on this, I'm actually gonna be covering this part with paper. Right now I'm just covering all of this in black so that I just have all of this covered, but I am gonna go back into it with the decorative paper, which I'm gonna be covering the entire album with pages from here. And I think that I've decided to go with this one right here as my front and my back cover, because I do have. So I'm gonna use this color right here to decorate it, because it's to turn this into a mermaid album, because I do have many mermaid paper shapers that are coming, and they're nice. They have a really nice size, and I got all of the ones that were in the line. So I'm hoping to bring styles of mermaids everywhere. That's the goal. We'll see if I achieve it, but that's the goal. Plus, I have all the other stamps and paper shapers that come in a set. So I have a whole bunch of different under the sea type of stamps and paper shapers that I'm gonna alternating throughout the whole album. This, so I'm not gonna worry about it fraying because everything is gonna be covered. Plus, how many times? A lot, it depends. Give this away or not. As part of an official giveaway, so I'll see how I do that. But for now, I just wanted you guys to kind of do the process with me. So I left myself an edge on each. Left myself some space on each side. So I'm just gonna go and kind of score this like so. And let me get my. I think it'll be easier for me to do it on here. So now that I got my little fold, I'm gonna score one before and one after, just so that I make sure that I give have that nice and tucked into that fold. So one before and one after. There's no necessarily no measurements here, just depending on wherever your fall. Same thing for this one, for the other side. So I'm gonna here with this spot right here, this right here, and just put my little fold line right there so that I know where I gotta do it at. And again, I'm gonna go one before and one after. Make sure that I have enough space on here to actually fit this in. And you know what, just for safe measure, I'm gonna do a third one, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the other one, just to make sure. So I'm gonna add 3 consecutive score lines, just to make sure that I have room so that it's not where it doesn't need to have tension at. Let me just make sure. And let me just fold this. And let me just fold this. Now, since I've scored 3 times, if it needs a little bit more room here and there, it'll have it. So I should be able to adjust it just fine. Once I go taping it on, I should be good to go. Okay. So now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down to size, hopefully, you guys, because this is 13-inch paper. I'm thinking I should just probably the edges off, which I think is what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna start with one side. I'm gonna start with the spine and put that part on so that I know how much room I need for the rest of it. I'm gonna cut it down. I'm gonna trim it right off. You also have the option of, again, doing just like we did the first part of the book, which is cutting everything down in sections and then gluing it on that way, if you wish. Good night. I'm gonna start at the very top and just add my glue. And I'm gonna start with the spine. Right to the edge if I can. And I'm gonna use my scoring to just make sure I have that in there nicely. And the same thing on the other side. And just kind of making sure that that is in there nicely. And actually what I might do, I'm thinking, that should be fine. I just don't like that individual movement when I get myself in trouble, is when I do that. So I'm wondering if I should just kind of cut this down on both ends, kind of like I did before. So I'm gonna cut this actually. Dilemma, you guys, dilemma. The inner workings of a beginner, dilemma. Because when you fold it up, different ways, and that's the problem. When you fold it up and when you fold it down, you're gonna get a little bit of movement, but that should be fine. So I'm just gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. It should be fine. This is me praying out loud. It should be fine. It will be fine. And the good thing is that I'm going to be covering it up anyway. I'm going to be decorating the insides of it. The reason why I did the whole line straight is, again, because I put this bright pink duct tape. If I would have put it with black, I probably wouldn't have worried about it so much because it would have just looked nice and shiny, actually giving my album a little bit more. I'm going to make sure that this is, where's the score line? This scored. I don't want to take anything away from it opening and closing, which is my biggest ordeal here. When it opens and closes, it creates an area to happy with. And I did not paper to that. I did not put it on as leveled as I should have. It got stuck on the double-sided tape. So let's see here. And it is actually not even trying to glue itself. Come on, stop playing with me right now. You're causing stress in my life. So let's see. Let's see. This cardstock that I'm using, this black one, it's a textured kind of cardstock. I'm not sure what the name of it is. I just know that it's not smooth, it's textured. Um, it's not like cardstock, which is like beveled. It's not like that, but it does have some texture to it. Go ahead and start putting this down. Same right here. Never tear too much about it. Again, I'm gonna add more. I have a few layers between the cover and everything else of paper, so I'll be able to cover up any tearing that happens with it. To figure out is how to do the slip in and out, so that the spine kind of slips in and out of the cover, so I don't have to worry so much about folds, because my biggest pet peeve, the hinges, you know, the inside of this part here, I do so much easier when it comes to adding the different sections than this part here. A little bit harder. If you guys run into the same issue, easier when others do it than when you do it. I've followed so many tutorials and instructions, and I always run into a problem when it comes to actually doing this part of it. So let's gonna give this a few minutes to glue itself on, and then I'm just gonna continue to cut what it does, what it needs to do. Once it's glued on and it's secure, it's not too bad. Advice to you would be to leave it for a few and let it make sure that it's glued on nicely, and then you should be okay. Make sure that your score lines are nice and well, you know, and that will help you a lot when it comes to actually putting this whole thing together. This little piece right here actually goes right here because it's the remaining piece that is off. So I'm going to glue that in. And here we have our album cover. This little piece right here. I'm going to glue this little piece in. This little section here that balance. This doesn't really matter at the end of the day because, again, you're going to cover it up. But that's just my OCD kicking in, so don't mind me. Make sure that everything is everything. So it opens and folds pretty well. You can open it all the way and fold it all the way. and then you have your edges already all black. So when you add your paper, you don't have to worry so much about, oh my God, this is gonna show, that's gonna show, that's gonna show. You know, plus we're gonna be wrapping this up just once more to secure everything in place. But now I don't have to worry about this part here. I can leave this spine blank, black if I want to, and I could just decorate here, not having to worry about my hinges anymore, which is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have to worry all the time about my hinges. Part secure. Be decorating the covers, and we're gonna be adding our inside covers. Depending on how much time I have, we'll see where else we go. But not bad. I've been on for an hour and I've already covered my entire book. You know, constructed it. So I actually like the construction of this one. It actually came out really well. I was very worried. So praying works, you guys. Praying works. So I advise you to pray and pray often. As it did come out better than I thought. I was actually a little bit worried once I saw that the paper was kind of lifting itself up. I was like, no, please don't do this to me. But it actually worked out really well. So once you add your glue, just make sure that you smooth it out. Make sure you get out all the air bubbles. There's no air bubbles in here. Make sure that your score lines, especially on this part right here, you know, where your spine connects with your covers, is very well defined. It's very nicely pressed in. Add glue on this. Right here, you don't add any glue. You add glue to the spine. You add glue to your covers. You do not add glue to your score lines, okay? You leave those score lines free so that they are not stuck to anything. I think that helps a lot with the ability to open and close. So we have that part. Now to do our covers and our spine to cover the whole thing up. So I'm going to do the cover in very much the very familiar way, the same way that I did my original covering, the outside of the book. This one, and even though there's a little bird on there, I'm still thinking that I'll be able to embellish that nicely and just with the whole mermaid look. I can still use the bird as the decal, but I'll hook it up and just make it like he's sending a message or something. I'll do something to it. Part. We'll just have it there for now. Get rid of my white trims for now. And so I'll tell you guys what the measurements of these sections are going to be in a second once I figure it out. Has a tearaway? Oh, it has a tearaway. All perfect. So I don't even have to do all that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in the exact same dimensions that I did. Well, maybe not the exact same dimensions. Maybe I want a little bit more room so that I make sure that I cover this up. So originally I had cut the covers at by 9. I think what I'm going to do now is cut it at 6 1/4, but I'm going to cut it at 9 1/2 so that I have a little bit more lip to play with, you know, coming down and wrapping around. So I'm going to cut it at 6 1/2 by 9. So I'm going to put my paper sideways because this is the image that I'm going to use in the front, and then this is the image that I'm going to use in the back. Maybe no. Maybe I won't even use that bird, and I'll just stick to both of the sides being this image here. I'm going to cut it at 9 1/2. So I'm going to bring my paper down to 9 1/2. A little birdie's gonna, that hurts me, but live. Bye bye, little birdie. The point of no return. A really wide piece to use for the size that we're going to be using, but it'll work out. Let me see now. 6 1/2. Let me see if I can get the bird out altogether. I probably could have saved the bird, you guys. I probably could have saved the bird. So I'm actually going to go to 6 1/2 just to give myself a little bit more room to play with when it comes to the edges so that I make sure that I have ample space. So I'm going to go at 6 1/2. So this is going to be the front cover, because I'm thinking I am going to go with the mermaid look. So this is going to be the front cover, and then I'm going to do the same with the back. So what I'm going to do now, since I know that I have more than enough room, and unfortunately I killed my birdie, but Um, maybe I'll be able to use that somehow. I'll figure that out. This hurts me right now, but it's okay. Um, it's only paper, you guys. Yes, they can take a lot of time, which is why this is part one. Right now, I'm just focused on it's out, and then at least starting to build some of stuff that we're going to be using as pages, just some of the places to tuck away tags, um, and I'll probably figure out the layout as far as how I'm going to want it to open up. Thinking is that for the 3 inches, I can use maybe 3 books, tops 4, and have them be well enough space that they're not, you know, that there is not too bulky. They're fun to make. They do take a lot of time though, and they do come out beautiful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring this down to 6.5, which is what I should have done first. So learn from my mistakes, you guys. 6.5, so I can at least salvage that bird, even though I couldn't salvage the other one. I'm gonna cut this down. I was able to save him as a whole, so this will definitely become a tag at some point or the other. And then I'm gonna 9.5 is what I said. Yeah, 9.5. And again, I'm cutting paper that is bigger than what I'm gonna need to cover the book. But I just want to make sure that my edges are beautifully covered so that I don't have an issue with that. And actually, cut. I'm actually gonna use this part here to the spine. So 4x9. So how big is this? Exactly what I needed. How many inches? Just off by 1 inch. So I'm gonna bring it up to 4. Maybe I'll bring it up to 4.5 again, making sure that I have more than I need. I need it to 4 because I'm gonna be. I'll bring it up to 4 just to be safe. Better safe than sorry. And this is gonna be the spine of my book. So we have the spine, and we have page number 1, 2, and the spine. And the first thing I'm gonna do is decorate my spine. Again, starting with the middle section first. That way I can configure where the front covers and the back covers are gonna be. Be bigger than I need it to be. Just trying to see. So this is gonna have to be like this, right? Because this is gonna open this way. So let me go ahead and open up my book, and I'm gonna create some markings on this paper now. I have enough space in the bottom and in the top. I'm gonna try to fold over how much room I have. Let me make sure that this is nice and leveled. I'm using the edge of my cutting table, my little cutting surface. This is nice and leveled to cut and score. And then my scoring lines are here. So pretty much all I'm doing is just marking down where my scoring, how tall my paper is, you know, how long my spine is, and where my on this paper. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, and again, because I'm dealing with hinges, I'm gonna make sure that I score a couple lines before and a couple lines after, just to make sure that everything is. recipe for the bistec. He loves putting up the food and stuff. For this, where I marked it, let's score the bottom. Anytime, just send me a message and I'll send you the recipe. But I'll send it to you on a different one so that you can have it lost in the rest of the combo. But that's just pretty much the thinly sliced steak. So I'm gonna score at where I made my marking, and then I'm gonna make sure that I score one before and one after. Okay. Again, this is just to make sure that you have enough room and that your spine has enough room, has enough wiggle room. Of detail if it doesn't show through, so it's really no loss. And I don't know what happened with my score lines here, but this I do not. If somebody asked me what I think about this, and if they asked me if I would recommend this product, I would have to say no. I do not like it. Now I'm gonna fold this down. It's over. It does my lines wonky. It cuts my paper wonky. The blade runs out like lightning. Oh, look at your genius at work. Great idea, Liz. And for those that are watching this after the live, pretty much Liz is telling me to save all the little paper scraps. And by Liz, I mean Very Crafty Bonet. So that I can create little witches hats with a scallop punch. A scallop punch is is the one that has the hole, right? I have no idea. I'm so bad at terminology, you guys. And pretty much this is gonna fit on my spine like so. And it is going to wrap around. Is it going to wrap itself around? I think I need to score it a few more notches above. It's too tight of a fit. So do the same thing for the bottom than for the top. Just score a couple lines above and a couple lines below, just so that you make sure that you have ample room. So I'm gonna go above where I scored originally, and just create a couple more score lines so that I make sure that I have more than enough room and that the paper is nice and flexible. Now again with this, if you want to add a little piece of tape just to secure, you're more than welcome to do so. Fold that just so that I can measure this properly. It's a lot better. All right. Where's my little scissor that I had somewhere around here? Now what I'm gonna do, pretty much, right at that score line, at that very first score line, I'm gonna cut. You see that? Like a little at an angle. Here, just a little notch. And at that very first score line, leave all the other score lines alone. Okay? As I need. And I'm gonna do this like so. for now. Just to that very first score line. Properly. Just to that very first score line. And remember, I scored multiple times. I have 3 score lines on each side, top and bottom. Yes. And this is why I'm doing it this way. So, I mean, so far, it is holding up well. Construction wise, I mean, I'm jiggling it and the paper lifting up. So, this was a very good to do this. Tape showing. Off. Let me just make sure that I got all that tape out of there. Thinner scissor just to make sure that I got all that tape out of there. That's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of eyeballing it a little bit, and then I'm cutting little slits where I see where it's gonna be. So I got this pretty much there. Depending on how wide that's gonna be, I'm gonna be removing these little pieces here. I'm gonna be folding them down. So I'm actually gonna be folding this down. So I'm gonna have to adjust my cut just a little bit. It meets where it needs to meet. Same with this one. Making my cuts just a little bit deeper. Only because that's what the paper requires. And then I'm gonna fold these down. I don't have that white edge of the paper there, you know, ruffled paper there. I'm just gonna fold them down and I'm gonna glue these in. And this is why I say, yeah, we have instructions, but at the end of the day, because everybody does things just a little bit different. The same with this one, and just make it just a tad bit deeper. Just a tad bit deeper. My little piece of paper. So I'm gonna fold these down. And I'm gonna glue these into place. And because they are scored, then they should be fine. Should be able to hold just fine. All right, so let's commence the gluing on this bad boy. Double-sided tape again, you'll probably be easier for you to reposition what you need to reposition. A little bit of glue. This is nice and straight. There's little tabs right there. I have that frayed paper kind of exposed there. Let me just make sure this is where this needs to be. It's just off. by a little bit. That one is okay. But this one was off. No, I can go ahead and do this down. And bring that down. Like so. Let me fix that edge. So you pretty much see how this is looking now. I have, now granted, I had a little bit more room. I could have moved this up just a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about that because again, I'm going to cover the inside. So as long as you get the spine good, that's pretty much what really, really matters here, is that you're able to glue down your spine. Okay, this is the bottom of the paper. So I'm going to start by gluing in the spine. Again, not putting any glue on the actual score lines, you guys, just on the center in between the score lines. And I'm not gluing down the tabs just yet. I'll glue down the tabs once I put the spine in place. And I'm going to fold this over like so. I'm going to position this where I need this to be. Making sure that everything is nice and leveled. And I'm going to smooth this out. Making sure that all that glue spreads out nicely and evenly and doesn't have any bumps or any air bubbles. Well, the more decorative the front is, the less you gotta embellish. So the less dimensional things you have to add to the front. And as we all know, dimensional things in the front sometimes tend to fall off, especially from storing it this, that, and the third. So I'd rather sometimes go with the prettier paper in the front and not have to worry so much about the embellishment. I could just simply add some simple things to the front that I know will last time and not worry so much about having to overdo the front because it's so plain, the paper. So pushing up against that nicely. Gonna help me to cover up these different of the pink tape that I have. Let me just a smidge more. Just a smidge more. So that it's not interfering with my folds. You want to make sure that it's not going to interfere, that these flaps do not interfere with your fold lines. Not having something kind of biting at it, if you will. And now that we have that, I'm going to do the same for this, and I'm going to cut here and pretty much cut right to where that to be. And now we have it at an angle once more, which I could have done that before, but I just wanted to make sure that everything was going to be good before I started gluing everything down and or cutting notches that were going to either be too big or too small. So I focused on the center one and then worked my way out from there. I need to so again, not on the score line, you guys, not on the score line. You want to glue outside of the score line. And this is where it can get tricky once more. Let me cut this edge out also. And I'm not saying that my way is a simpler way of doing it. That's why I didn't call this an easy DIY. Yes, that is definitely true. This. I put that flap in just a little bit too small, but I'll fix that later with some lace. I did this one good, but I pushed this one down just a tad bit, so you have a little bit of tape exposed there, but I'll fix that with either a lace or some trim or something so you won't be able to see it. Let me do this side, and only on the outside of the fold lines, not on the inside. I want to make sure that folds well, and I'm going to cut this little edge off of this one as well. Make sure that this folds well, and adding my just make sure that it's not interfering. You want to make sure that where your fold line is, your paper is nowhere near that fold line. Just make sure that you have that spot free. You don't want nothing into that little space there. And the same thing for the bottom. So make sure that free, because my glue is probably dry by now. And do this. That out. Don't have paper to put over that. Anything that happens in the bottom will be reflected on the top. So if you have air bubbles, so on and so forth, all of that stuff will be reflected on the top. Just making sure I push out any air bubbles and that the paper is making proper contact so that it glues down properly. Just applying some pressure here so that everything glues down well. For someone, Brandy, this you're gonna go to somebody. I just don't know how I'm gonna deliver that. If it's gonna be via like a small giveaway or like a mystery giveaway or what. I don't know yet. The new one, what? Okay, you guys are talking to each other. All right, so we have that. Just want to make sure that it opens and closes. You hear that? Not 100% secure with the backing, but it's okay. It will allow it some movement, so I'm not too worried about that. I can still open it and hold it closed pretty much, so that works for me. Sometimes when you have it too tight, that's when things pop, right? The paper breaks. So don't, it's like running your paper shapers through the machine. Those creaking sounds and cutting noises are perfectly fine. That's what it's supposed to do. I'm just gonna assume that this is a musical album, and that's part of the reason why it makes noise. You should. People do it all over the place. If you go to eBay, you find a lot of people that do that. Depends on what you have. So if you have a nice assortment, you could do themed packages. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff. Why not? Why not? Trouble having to do it themselves. All right, you guys. So we got our spine. Now we're gonna glue on our cover. This is how the bottom of it is gonna look with that nice, pretty red flower there. I'm gonna edge up this paper. I think. Yeah, I think I'm gonna edge it up. Let me cut this little strip of perforated edge right off. 1/8 of an inch off. Hopefully this darn thing will do what I needed to do. A little edge right off. Let me see if the other one has it. Yeah. Let me cut that little 1/8 off, and that way I don't have to worry about that edge. I'm gonna see live and direct the issues that I deal with when it comes to things. Life has to be so rough sometimes. Hola Isabel. And the post that I sent you through Instagram, a las 8 de la noche, mujer, they're gonna activate. You can call. You know who or what, when, or where, but at 8 o'clock they're gonna activate the phones. Might at least help you get some information, as far as where they might be and stuff. Now, when I glue this on, I'm not gonna glue it right on the score edge. I'm gonna glue it a little bit before, allow myself enough room here so that I don't have to. I'm gonna maybe 1/8 of an inch before with the edges interfere again with the opening and closing. I've been one that in the past I've glued it right on the edge, and then when it opens, it kind of bumps into the edge itself, and that creates the paper starts buckling, it starts getting damaged, and that is no bueno, señores, no bueno. Yes, you can call. Using your paper, girl. I need another one of these. You know that I literally have maybe a total of 4 paper pads that are pretty like this. I think maybe 3. The rest are just like mismatched looking paper pads. But I only have 4 that are 3 or 4 that are pretty. To use them much because they're pretty and I like it so much. I'm trying to see. I think I need to go with let me see if I find my broken china. My broken china because I don't have a green per se that matches this. So this is like the closest that I can find that will match. And I'm only gonna do the edge. I'm not gonna get all deep with it. I just don't want the white edge showing. So I'm just gonna use it just on the edge of the paper where I believe is gonna be meeting up with my spine. So let me just see where's it gonna go. I think I'll go like so. So I'm just gonna use it up against that edge right there. For the front. This completely, you don't have to do this. Again, if you're gonna be embellishing it, adding flat backs or rhinestones or lace, then you don't necessarily have to worry about this part. Since I really don't know where my embellishing is gonna end up, is the only reason I'm doing it. And I'm only doing it at that one edge that's gonna be exposed. I sent you, I added you in the link that Ruth's Inkwell put on her Instagram. She's got the information there. She's got phone numbers. She's got a whole bunch of information there. If you want to check her link out, I sent you a comment on Instagram so that you can, you know, write down the information and hopefully get in contact with somebody, because I know this must be so hard right now. Imagine. And you know, I'm Dominican, so Dominican Republic got hit, but it did not get. It was not as bad as Puerto Rico. So I mean, you know, my heart definitely goes out to you because I know that this is not way, shape, or form easy. My husband has family over there, but most of his family is here. The ones that matter to him the most. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but the ones that you know he has seen, the one that he has, you know, that have been part of his life. I should say it that way. They're pretty much all here. So um, they're either here or heaven has them already. So you know, it wasn't that much of a. I mean, it was a worry, but you guys understand what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing or offend anybody. Where's my rose? So this is where my rose is. I'm using this so that I know where the beginning and the ends of my book are. And again, I'm gonna try to write off of where right off of where my spine folds, like right above it, just so that I have it balanced. And when I open it, it's not interfering with my opening and my closing of my book. And now I'm gonna try to stick it down. Let me add more glue. I want to make sure that this is the cover. I want to make sure that this is gonna stay on forever. Let me just add more glue to this part of it here. Make sure it's nice and leveled. I'm gonna try to cut off my edges here, and make it so that I have a little bit of space so I can actually this. And I'm probably gonna ink up those any edge that is sticking out. It just I'm gonna cut it just a little bit before. But I'm gonna cut it just a little bit before where an eighth of an inch or so um, from where. So I still have a little teensy weensy bit of paper right there from where that corner is, so that I can go ahead and wrap this up, cover these corners properly. On this one, I don't need to worry about it. I make sure that my corners are good to go. And I am going to ink up these edges here, since these might be exposed. So I'll just ink them up so they're not white, and I don't have to worry about them later. So I'm going to grab my ink, run it down like so. So just so that they're not exposed. Well, they're going to be exposed just so that they're not so white. You can feel free to do this with any color that matches your. You could even do it with black if you don't find an alternate color. push this in. Just make sure that everything is nice and tight. I mean, that's just me. Um, I want it to feel like it's ironclad, you know? Nice and tight. And then in the next one, I actually still have time to I might actually still have time to at least get one of my envelopes, or at least my sections started, so that I'll show you guys how those sections are gonna go. And I'll get my Velcro system in here so that you guys see how the Velcro system works and just how easy it is, and a very good alternative for having to glue and bind your spines, you know, of your little album sections. This will just make life, I think, a little bit easier. And if you don't have magnets, which I was hoping to have my magnets by now, they're not here yet. But if you don't have magnets, then you can um, then you can definitely go ahead and use yourself some Velcro and just get the Velcro in a color that matches your scheme. If you need to ink up your Velcro, then ink it up. You know, you can dye it. It's Velcro. It doesn't have any sticky surface to it. So feel free that if you have a white one, and let's say maybe you have some inks or you even have some alcohol markers, maybe you want to put some alcohol marker with some alcohol, dip your Velcro pieces in there, and let them catch some of that color, then they'll match a little bit better with your project. That's the cheap way of doing it. Or you can buy different color Velcro. I mean, I'm not sure where you will find them. Maybe in Joann's, maybe in Michael's, or maybe in an online store. The Velcro is a very cheap to using magnets when they're not readily available. Pushing in, making sure that these corners. You're welcome, darling. I know it's hard. I mean, it's beyond hard. It's a terrible thing to experience, to kind of go through. It really, really is. Praying for all of you guys, like every single day, just hoping that everything is fine, that everything turns out okay, that everybody that needs to communicate with other people will do so. Okay, okay, that's the most important thing, that everything turns out okay. I kind of put that paper upside down, but it's okay because it'll look, it should be fine. Cool about these things is that because they're Velcro, you can actually use the book right side up or the other way around. You can put them back in any way that you like. And depending on how much decoration or lack of decoration you put, or if you put a title, this, that, or the third, you can alternate the titles, so on and so forth. I mean, there's so many things you can do, especially if you magnetize the title. I mean, my mind just goes everywhere else, but let's say you magnetize the titles and you add like a little piece of magnet in here. I don't have any, unfortunately, but maybe in a future one I'll do something like that, where I'll add magnets into it so that you can interchange the titles and things. You can always switch it up a little bit. Um, a coordinating set that maybe you can alter up. I'm just trying to see because there's a red flower there, which I think is gonna interfere just a little bit with how this is gonna go. But I'm gonna go for it because I'll just embellish it. I'll add some flatbacks or something if I don't like how it looks at the end. No te preocupes, Isabel. Dios es demasiado grande and everything's gonna be okay. Just no news is better than news. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes bad news always travels fast, is what I'm trying to say. Travels fast. So let's just hope and pray that everything turns out a-okay. I'm gonna add glue on this cover. Going on the folding parts of the album. Going right before it. Right before the folding parts of it. See, if my tape would have been black, like if I would have had black duct tape, I probably would not have even gone as far as this. Like I could have definitely seen myself making like a black album and adding embellishments to the cover as it was, and doing like a black and white theme. The tape alone as it was, because it actually makes it look almost leathery, like it's got like a leather spine. Um, and then just embellishing that however I could. I'm gonna do the same to this. And just add glue. Add glue everywhere. Let's see how we do this. Right. This is kind of how I want this. So I'm gonna try to position it so that I give myself enough room. On the folding mechanism, but right off. And again, just rubbing this paper down. Off angle here. Thank God that this takes a few seconds to dry. Allow me to lift it up a little bit. If I would have put double-sided tape on this, I wouldn't have been able to do that, to be honest with you. And if I would have been able to do it, I would have definitely had to add some glue just to make sure that I can stick it down in the same fashion. Let me just kind of score this a little bit. And then go into my cutting. Again, trying to keep it so that it doesn't, that I give myself just that 1 centimeter of space so that as the paper folds, a little bit of room so that it's not directly on the corner. And maybe you might even want to give yourself a little bit more space depending on how pointy you want your corners to be. It's funny how for things that are a little bit more require more steps or a little bit more difficult to do, my brain actually has the capacity to absorb those instructions a lot better than things that are more simplified. I find that to be so odd. Notice that my brain works a lot better with multiple steps, things that require multiple steps, than with things that are very simple, very basic. Um, it's like my brain tries to you got where you want to go. Okay. It's like my brain tries to fill in the gaps. Like there's more instruction needed. Something is needed, and that's when I usually end up overdoing it, like over embellishing or over rating, over cutting, oversizing, um, over the top. Because for some reason my brain is trying to compensate for the simplicity. It's like this should be more difficult. We're missing something. Something is not right here. And now for the last one. Just gonna make sure that this is nice and taut and pushed up well against the cover. Okay, so we have our book pretty much covered. It's a neat little trick, right? Is it right side up or is it upside down? Is it right side up or is it so for the most part, you don't really see the pink tape except for that one little spot right there, which I'm gonna fix that because at the end of the day, once I add my lace, bring, but maybe it will like a little piece of something, which will probably fall off anyway. Because it does irritate the living life out of me. Try to see if I can maybe or glue. Just like that little piece of so it's not there anymore. Yeah, a little piece of paper there. Not sticking out so much. And then I'll probably still add just I'll show you guys that. That's part of the process anyway. Just the way that I close off everything and I just hide all the other stuff like the Velcro and stuff like that, because all of that stuff is gonna be hidden. You're not really gonna be able to see it from the outside of the album once it's done anyway. So whatever it is, a little piece of tape won't be visible once I'm done. So I got that done. Now I'm gonna choose a paper for the inside, and it's not gonna be the same as the outside. So I'm gonna see what paper I choose for the inside. I'm thinking floral is gold floral. I'm not sure. What do you guys? I'm thinking that gold floral. How many of that do I have? Yeah, I have the two. Um, I really like that because the outside is very busy. Or these dots, gold dots. Another one here. Maybe this one. Would be good for like the tags. So maybe I won't use that one. See? Or this one right here with the dots. I kind of like this one with the dots on it. And it matches the paper well enough that it'll blend it. I think I'm going to go with this one. Now for this one, I won't need the two sheets, I don't think, because I'll be able to cut them, which is the width of the whole paper out. I'll be able to cut this one at 5 because I won't be doing any folding or any scoring. So I'll be able to cut this at 5 by 8, which is the actual dimension, the book itself. So 5 by 8, 5 by 8, and 2 by 8, which are the actual dimensions of the original cardstock, chipboard pieces. And then I'm going to edge those edges up. And I might even make it a little bit shorter than the 5 by 8, just so that I have a nice little, well, no, I'm going to do it the whole 5 by 8. So I'm going to do a 5 by 8, each one, and the 2 by 8. So let's see where we go from here. So I'm going to bring this down to 8. Put this to the side. This will be used for my spine. Bring this down to 5. one. So I might not even need to cut it. I'm gonna see if that fits in there, which it might actually be exactly what I need dimension wise. See. This is gonna cover this. This is gonna cover this. Cover this. All those little areas that were exposed and open are no longer an issue for me. They're all covered in. I'm just gonna ink up all my sides. And I think once I do this part of it, you guys, I'm gonna call it a night. And I'll be back for Simply Cards on Tuesday. And I think this Tuesday we're gonna be working on some easel cards. Because I've just been watching a lot of once I find something that inspires me, I definitely want to try it out. I'm a novice at anything to do with cards, so I think it'll be with just some different paper shapes and just try a couple different types of easel cards using the AliExpress and some of the eBay paper shapers to create them. I was watching a couple days ago. I'm not sure what account is, but I know that she's pretty much, a very well-known YouTuber. I do not want to say her name wrong, but I will list her name in the video when I do go live. It's definitely one of the main videos that I saw that put me on this search for easel cards and just wanting to see all these different easel cards. And also to let you guys know that I sent out most of the winnings that were won during my other live streams. Again, it does take me a little bit of time, sometimes a week, sometimes two, just to get it all together. And I don't mean you guys wise, I just mean myself, those things have been received and I go on the next giveaway adventure. So this was perfect, an 8x12. Actually, an 8x12 was actually enough. Once I cut it down to sections, it gave me exactly what I needed for me to fill in this album, to cover it in the inside. I hope that you get to speak to somebody that will tell you something. I have to send out hubby's cards, the cards that people want on his live stream, well, on my channel, but his live stream. Those are the next to go out. So I got my inserts. I think this is gonna look really, really cute. The black because I like it actually. Of structure. So I'm gonna leave that as is. And I was gonna use double-sided tape, but I think I'm just gonna stick with my glue since I do of that. So let's get into this. Now the tricky part for me is always putting things leveled, which means matching up edge to edge, corner to corner. I'm very, very terrible at that. Glasses don't help. So I'm gonna try to level this up and just put it. I'm gonna put it with the edge and just the edge. Now, if this is longer and it covers better, like if let's say your top meets your bottom, then you don't have to make this so long. You can actually, leave a little border for yourself. I cut it so off and I glued it so off. I didn't leave myself the same amount of space in the top that I did in the sides. my edges don't meet up properly. So this is why I did it the full length of the cover. And if anything is sticking out anywhere, then you can just trim that off if you need to. And again, remember not to put this onto your scoring. Cut this down a little bit because of how you did your your sections, your scored sections, and how close you put everything together. Then feel free to do that. I'm actually gonna fold this up so I make sure that I'm not interfering. My hand. Somebody must be like, hurry up and stick it down already. All right, so again, I'm just leveling my edges. That's the most important part. Edges are very well, your corners and your edges, especially the on the outside of the album. And then making sure you get all your bumps out. And voila, you have a nice little the rest is just how you decorate it and how you embellish it. So now that we've done this, it's 8:11. I have about, I don't think I have enough time to actually go into this whole thing, but I think I'll leave that for the next part of this. So I think I'm gonna actually call it a night unless you guys want something else. But I think kind of do everything in series sections so I don't confuse you guys and get you guys kind of halfway going. On the next part, what we're gonna do the sections that are gonna go in here, apps, create the envelopes, um, and create everything. And I think what I'm gonna probably do, just so that we can go ahead and spend more time in decorating and embellishing, is that I'm gonna probably make most of them and just leave one set, live with you guys. They're not difficult at all to make. To check me out when it comes to me doing this next Saturday. Then maybe I'll jump in ahead of time and do it. Depends on how I become. So if you want to, if you want to see how the rest of this album comes out, then please check me out on the next Let's Create Live, which is on Saturdays at 6 p.m. If you like this video and you found it helpful, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, as I'm always constantly doing all different kinds of projects, from mixed media to art generally, to watercoloring, to paper crafting, cards. I try it. So hopefully, thank you guys. It has been awesome as usual. On the next one. So thanks for watching. Bye.